Good morning. Good morning. Happy Friday. Good morning, everyone. Just going to wait for you guys to trickle in. Say hi. Let me know where you're tuning in from. TGIF. Happy Good Friday. Happy Easter in advance for those of you who celebrate. Hello, Geraldine. Good morning, Everblast and Instagram. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Facebook. What's everyone doing this weekend for Easter? Okay, if this is your first time tuning in, definitely comment in there so I can give you a shout out. Thank you for tuning in. Um, for those of you who this is not your first time tuning in, definitely say good morning. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Thank you. Happy Easter to you too. Good morning. Good morning, Justina from Los Angeles. Super early this morning there. Tanique from Florida. Obioma from Tampa. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Let me introduce myself. My name is Aisha Chidole. I'm an immigration attorney, and I represent clients all over the United States, all 50 states, and internationally, which your family immigration matter. So I'll be happy to assist you, your friends, your family. Please share my live videos. Please share my YouTube, my Instagram, and my Facebook so that other people who need this information can also learn about this information. If you want to schedule a consultation with our firm, you call 407-995-6567, or you can send a WhatsApp message to 404-333-8751. I always have to also give this disclaimer. There are some people pretending to be me that are not me. So please do not be scammed. If you don't get a call from the two numbers that I listed, or you're not calling the two numbers, it is not me. We will never ask you to Zelle us anything or Cash Up us anything or PayPal us anything, especially for those of you on TikTok, that are being that literally being scammed left, right, and center. And those of you on Instagram, please do not get scammed. Okay. So today I don't really have any topic. I'm here to answer your questions. If you have any dying questions or things that you want to know about, feel free to ask them in the comment um, box, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. While I wait for you guys to start typing your questions, let me say hi to some people. Hi, Sanchez from Cameroon. Good morning. Bola Akera says, looking beautiful as always. Love from Houston. Thank you so much. Let me turn on my light on Facebook. Sparkles, happy Good Friday to you too. Good morning, Arhan. Good morning, Brown in Florida. Tamika in Alabama. Good morning, Carrie. Woman of God reaching out from Panama City Beach, Florida. Awesome, awesome. Um, okay. Do officers do home visits for VAWA cases? Um, so the it is very, very dangerous for officers to do home visits because the idea behind VAWA, and for those of you who are wondering what she's asking, what VAWA is, if this is your first time tuning in, VAWA is Violence Against Women's Act, where basically, ignore the word women in it because this is for both women, men, children, and parents who are abused by their U.S. citizen or green card holders in the case of parents and spouses, family members. When you are petitioning for a VAWA case, there's a very, very strict confidentiality requirements that the offices, the USCIS offices, have to abide by. Like, they can't even send mail to your house because that is dangerous to you. So imagine that you're basically saying that you're abused, and then they show up knocking on your door. That is extremely dangerous to a spouse that is experiencing abuse, or a child, or a parent. So no, they don't do home visits. However, if you have a marriage-based case, there are chances that they could do home visits, especially if after your interview you haven't received a result on your interview, whether you've been approved, denied, notice of intent to deny, and it's been more than 6 months. you always just want to prepare that you could have a home visit, you can have an office visit, that they may be visiting your landlord or visiting your neighbors, or something in your application that they want to vet. So you always want to be on alert about that. So Bella on Instagram says, I brought my husband here. Oh my goodness, I think I lost my connection on Instagram. Can you guys see me on Instagram? It says I have poor connection. Or can you guys see me on Facebook? I do not know what's going on with the Wi-Fi this week in the office. I'm frozen on Instagram. Let me see. Can you guys see me on Facebook and YouTube? If you can, just say yes, because I can see that they can't see me on Instagram. I just want to make sure that someone can see me. Can you guys see me? Okay, so nobody's responding, so I'm assuming nobody can see me, right? Okay, Hannah says she can hear me. Good. But I don't know if the people on Instagram can see me. But if you can see me now, no, okay, you can see me now. Good. Okay, let me go back to the question that I was trying to answer. Somebody says, I brought my husband here and he knows I have anxiety. He records the reaction, but never the trigger. He's a threat. Divorce. Can he use this against me? This Vala isn't fair. So Bella, you raise a good question, but I just want to make sure that you are not mixing victim and abuser as far as your own personal life. So when you say Vala is not fair, what are you basing that on? Because people truly are suffering in their marriages who are immigrants, just like non-immigrants is suffering. If you're a non-immigrant suffering in your marriage, VAWA is not something that applies to you. You have to find out what applies to you and submit it. However, what I do is I represent immigrants. And as somebody who represents immigrants, I see atrocious cases happening on a daily basis to people, not only because they're immigrants, but because they have spouses that use the fact that they're immigrants to assert dominion and cruelty towards them. So when you say VAWA is not fair, you have to make sure that you're basing your statement on something that's happening. I don't know who your husband is and what your husband is doing or whatever it is. That's, personal problem between you and your spouse. So then, you should reach out to authorities if your husband is abusive to you. Whether you are an immigrant or not, you should not deal with abuse. But please do not say VAWA is not fair, because there are many people that are dying in relationships, dying. We just actually grieved. This is me now. I'm going off on a whatever. Like, one of my favorite singers just passed away, last week because she was abused. So abuse is very serious, and it is fair that people who are abused get to have a way out. Because a lot of times people stay in abusive relationships because they don't have papers, because they cannot financially afford to leave, because their spouses threaten to take their children away from them, because their spouses threaten to get them deported. And the idea of being back home, that is even better. I've had people call me who are on the verge of suicide, or send me messages or cards after we got them their green card, saying literally they almost killed themselves, because of what they were dealing with, until they found a way out. I have a card in my office that stays there, right there on my mount, as a reminder every day, because that client almost killed themselves before we were able to get them a way out. So please, please, please be very careful when you make such blanket statements for other people based on what you're dealing with. I know sometimes hurt people, you lash out, and misery loves company, but I pray that whatever it is that's hurting you, that you can deal with that and you don't take it out on innocent victims that are actually dealing with this. Okay, now that I'm off my pedestal, let me continue. So, is it normal for a C-31 work permit to take over 20 months to get approved? Absolutely. So C-31 basically means that your VAWA case has been approved. So you're not going to get a C-31 work permit until your case has been approved. So that is why it takes 2 years or more to get approved, because you can't get that until you're approved. C-9 basically means that your case is pending. So that's a work permit that means that your case is pending. So those typically take 5 to 9 months. But talking about that, let me just bring this up, because I'm sure, I don't know if I mentioned this in any of my lives, but on the last day in March, basically USCIS announced that they're going to be looking into some sort of premium processing, where you can basically pay premium. And don't quote me on this. I think it's about $17.50 for this EADs, which is work permits. that will allow you to premium process and get your work permit in 3 months. So you don't have to wait the 5 to 9 months. Now they haven't implemented that yet because everything has to go through a final rule, and then the rule will be enforced. Estimates is basically saying that this could happen in June. If it happens, this will be wonderful for a lot of people who are willing to pay for premium processing so that they can get their work permits. If it doesn't happen, the timeline right now is 5 to 9 months. And even though I say 5 to 9 months, you could still get your work permit earlier. There are always people that are going to get their work permit earlier. There are always people that are going to get their work permit later. Right now, as of April, we've been seeing some really early work permits coming around the 5-month mark. So fingers crossed that that's the new normal, and we're going back to what it used to be like 3 years ago, when it used to be like 4 to 6 months. So, yeah. All right. Let's see what else. Okay, awesome. So you guys can all see me. Geraldine says, my sister got her I-360 approved. When can she get her green card? Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that about your sister. So generally, after you get your I-360 approved, which is the actual VAWA petition, if she got it through VAWA as opposed to widower or something else, they would usually schedule you for an interview a couple of months later. Or sometimes they may bypass an interview. If they bypass an interview, they may ask you to send your medical exam if you didn't send it the first time, or if your medical is expired, they'll ask you to send it again. It's really hard to determine whether they're going to bypass someone's interview or not, because this is something that's more recent due to the pandemic. But so she should just wait a couple of months and hopefully she will get it. So Carrie on Facebook says, while petitioning for a VAWA case, can your husband petition for your child if there's an emergency case arises with a stepchild? Well, Carrie, first of all, your husband does not. If you're a victim, and you're petitioning for VAWA, that is not something that you should be disclosing to your husband for your own safety and your own risk. That being said, if your husband wants to petition for your child, that has nothing to do with your own application, because at the end of the day, that's still his stepchild. Just like you've probably heard the phrase, you're a good father, but you're not a good husband. So some people are great to their kids, so to their stepkids, but are great husbands, or they're great husbands and they're terrible to their kids. Same goes for wives. Some are great moms and terrible to their husbands or spouses. So if he's filing for your child, then that's him. But your own process is not something that you should be discussing with your spouse. And I hope that is clear. All right, let me see what else here. Oh, Fan says Miami on the way to a lesson. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Hi, Brandon from New Jersey, New York. Okay, let's see what other questions I have. Let me just open this. Is 160 automatically approved USCIS misinterpret my marriage status on my DS form? I'm not sure I understand your question. I really don't understand the question, but I can't relate, so maybe you can ask it again. Everblood said, is the COVID vaccine still mandatory? As of today, it is. Immigration law is evolving, and as any immigration attorney can tell you, the laws change like on a daily basis. So I don't know what's going to happen, next week, next month, but as of right now, it's still a requirement. Personally, that's one of the reasons why when I'm dealing with clients, I prefer to take our medical exams to the interview, just because, we send a medical exam and then you come back, it's like, oh, it's a different form. Now you need vaccine. Now you don't need vaccine. So we just do send when it's time for the interview and just take it with us, because we'll be doing whatever is current then. But as of right now, it is a requirement unless you have a waiver for all vaccines, meaning you've not done any vaccines or religious exemption or any of all that stuff. Earl says, I got my work permit and I'm happy to tell you I'll be going for my green card interview next month. Awesome, Earl. Congratulations. I really, really hope that everything works out for you and that you kick ass at your interview and get your green card, okay? Is it safe to travel with your parole? Sweet Gucci, the answer really depends on what your status is in the United States. It's really important that you know what your status is in the United States before you travel. So if you have a removal case pending, or you have a pending asylum case, you want to be very careful. Well, if you have removal, I would not recommend traveling. If you have a pending asylum case, you want to be very careful where you're traveling to, because obviously you shouldn't be traveling to wherever you're claiming that, you're seeking asylum from. But otherwise, if it's nothing, certainly you can travel, go and come back. When you travel, just make sure you take all your documents with you. So your EAD travel permit combo card, take your green approval letters. And personally, I always say when you're traveling out of the country, you should always have a set of 2 documents. And this goes to even US citizens, just because if your luggage gets stolen or something happens, you want to be able to have a backup and be able to go to a consulate or whatever in that country. So always put one in your check-in and one maybe in your travel bag. Just basically separate them so that if one is missing, you can get the other one. How long? And so Denzel says, my detailed attorney arrived late. No problem. It's better late than never. Tyler Dan on Instagram says, how long does it take to get a work permit for VAWA standalone? So if you have a VAWA case standalone, what that means basically is that you don't have it means that you don't have an adjustment of status application with it. It means that you don't have a green card application with it. You're just seeking VAWA alone, which basically offers you deferred action. And what deferred action basically means is that, they're going to defer any kind of deportation, cases or whatever against you, and then you're allowed to work. And you can just keep renewing that. If you have a standalone VAWA, as far as work permit, you only get a work permit when you've been approved for VAWA. So that takes about 2 years to 2.5 years. There will be some people that will get it slightly earlier and of course later, but the window generally is 2 years to 2.5 years. Okay. The Dream says, hi, good morning. When applying for a fee waiver, should we send a payment? A fee waiver basically means that you're requesting that they should waive the fee, so you wouldn't send a payment. However, let me just point this out to you. It is very rare for fee waivers to be approved for immigration purposes. So if you can hurl ass and get the fees together, just do it and send the stuff with the fees. Because if you don't send the stuff with the fees and then they reject your packet, what happens is it's going to take them like 4 to 6 weeks, and in some cases longer to send that back to you. And then you're starting back again from ground zero. So if you can hurl ass and get your filing fee, please send it with a filing fee. Unless you're truly, 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 truly beneath the poverty guidelines, you can show that you're in a shelter, you can show that, somebody is receiving public assistance or something like that. But otherwise, find a way to pay the fees and just go. Jamie says, good morning. Thanks for your help. May God bless you abundantly. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Quinn on Facebook says, good morning. I went for an interview for a green card over 1 year and 3 months now, and I haven't gotten feedback from immigration. What could be the cause? This is a very good question, and I talked about this earlier, but maybe you hadn't tuned in. This is a case where I would say they're 100% investigating you. They're 100% investigating your background. They're verifying things. If you've ever been married before, they're looking into the previous marriages. They're looking into where you live, where your spouse lives. There could be home visits, office visits, landlord's visits. So you just want to prepare for that and make sure that you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's. Okay. Leon Galba says, hi, good morning. I'm on a work permit. How can I apply for a green card? What is the basis of your work permit? Do you mean that you're here on a work visa, like an H-2B or a J visa? Because the answer will depend. Because if those are not the categories, and you have a work permit, we need to know what your work permit is to determine whether or not you already have applied for a green card, because most work permits are attached to a pending green card application. Okay, somebody says, what if you're going through all this and not legally married to a said citizen and share a child? So I'm assuming that you're probably asking, like, if you're going through abuse and you're not legally married, If that is the case for you, there are two things that you could try to get screened for, to see if you'll qualify for a U visa, or if there's some trafficking involved, to see if you would qualify for a T visa. With a U visa, though, and a T visa, you have to be willing to cooperate with law enforcement to apprehend the abuser. I know that sometimes, or the basically the person that's committing a crime against you. I know that sometimes it's difficult for people when the person that's doing the wrong thing to you is a family member, and people want to protect them. But those are things that you're going to have to think about, what you're going through, and if you're willing to, because with a U visa, the law enforcement has to certify that you're willing to cooperate with them, or you're cooperating with them to, investigate and handle the situation. Um, okay, let's see what other questions. Rich Booty says, if you're recently out of status, like maybe 3 months out, what is your immigration status? This is an excellent question. So basically, if you're out of status, from the day you become out of status, you start accruing what we call unlawful presence. Unlawful presence, you start accruing it, and once you get to the 6 month mark, you leave the United States, you will not be able to come to the United States for 3 years. If you stay for up to a year and you leave the United States, you will not be able to come into the United States for up to 10 years. So your current status right now is no legal status, but you continue to accrue unlawful presence. So if you're not in status, just keep that in mind. If you left the country without, anything that you're applying for to help you get into status. Okay, so Leon Gal says they're an H-2B. Okay, so you're on an H-2B work visa. The way that you get a green card is through applying based on family. So if somebody can petition for you, I'm going to just make an assumption that you're over 21. If you're over 21, if an immediate family member your immediate family members that can file for you would be your spouse or your child that is over 21 that is a U.S. citizen. Other options for you to look into that have nothing to do with family law, so I'm just going to graze through this just because I don't handle these, is looking into see if you are a part of an E2 treaty country. If you're part of an E2 treaty country, you can see if you can invest in the United States. And that will allow you to stay here indefinitely as long as the business is running. You just keep renewing. That will not give you a green card, but could create a path depending on several millions that you spend. I'm entering business territory. I hate to talk so much about business territory just because I don't want you guys now asking me business questions, because I don't handle business cases any longer. But so that's one option for you. Another option is your employer can file for you and maybe try to do, enter you for an H-1B. And from an H-1B, you could possibly get a green card that way. And then your other option is if you're just, rolling like that and you've got a lot of money, you can do an EB-5, spend $1.8 million, have $1 million to spend if it's in a rural area, and get your green card that way. So those are the ways that you can get a green card from H-2B. Okay. Can you apply for a green card 1 month after you get married? Technically, yes, you can. There's no requirement or any date that stops you from getting married whenever you want to get married. The key things is to make sure that you have a qualified and a bona fide marriage. This for some reason is a very complicated concept for a lot of people when you're like, well, what do you mean? Like, what is a bona fide marriage? I have a marriage certificate. Like, what else is needed? And so a bona fide marriage is when basically they're saying, forget your marriage certificate. We know you have a marriage certificate. That shows that your marriage is legal. But did you really intend to enter this marriage for love? And because you want to spend your life with this person, or did you do it because of immigration? And so they'll be looking at things that you guys are doing together in your lives, i.e., what are you guys entangling your finances together? Are you guys having children? Are you guys putting each other in insurances? Are you guys traveling together? I mean, that's a full live where I can do a live. If you guys want me to do a live just talking about real good bona fides, I'll do that on Tuesday. But when you've been married for 1 month, it's unrealistic that you're going to have all those things. So, one of the things that would be helpful is try to gather as much stuff as you guys had prior to your marriage and up until this 1 month. Submit your application. And then, since most cases take at least 8 to 12 months, start trying to gather things and evidence in your marriage that show that you have a bona fide marriage. I mean, you're not going I would hope that you're not going to go one day and have like a list. I'm going to open all the things in one day because that looks sus, you know? You want to just acquire things organically like any other married couple that has been married for a short time. Like, what is one of the first things people do? Okay, let's see, how are we going to merge our bills together? Let's get a joint bank account. That's going to be our bill account, you know? Let's put each other on each other's phone plan so we make it easier and get a discount for putting each other on a phone plan. One of the first things that people do if your spouse is working and they have health insurance, add your spouse. You know, qualifying life events will allow you to add your spouse, and you have 30 days from that qualifying life event to add that spouse. You know, get life insurance. You know, if you have friends that know you guys in your relationship that can write affidavits, these are all good things that you can add. I mean, there's just so much that you can add, and I'll just spend my time talking about that. So, but yeah, the answer to your question is you can technically file. Just gather your stuff together. Everblood says, what benefits does a mother and daughter get from Vala? Do you mean, I'm going to assume that your question means if you're applying against a spouse and you and your daughter under 21 were probably listed on your prima facie, correct? If that's the case, the first thing that happens when you submit a VAWA application that meets the minimum requirements is that you get a prima facie determination letter. And the benefits vary depending on the state that you live in. You know, so I'm just going to use Florida and New York real quick off the top of my head. So, like in the state of Florida, you know, typically you have to wait till you get your work permit to get your driver's license, you know, an identification basically. However, if you have a prima facie determination letter, you can get your driver's license while you wait on your work permit. Okay. You know, in New York, one of the requirements, I'm just listing different states just based on stuff I can remember off of my memory. In New York, for instance, if you're mother, daughter, and you need public housing, public assistance, public benefits, if you get that prima facie determination letter, which is basically saying that you've met the minimum standards to be classified as a VAWA victim, you can get public assistance. A lot of states will have very strict requirements about, in order for us to give that to you, you cannot be living with your abuser. So if you're living with your abuser, you're probably not going to get it. But these are some things. And then financial aid, this applies statewide, like in all 50 states. You can get financial aid, but your financial aid would be tied to your prima facie determination letter. So the way it works is when you first apply, you get 1 year prima facie letter, right? And then thereafter, you'll be renewed in 6-month increments, 180-day increments until they make a decision. So each time those prima facies, which come automatically, like you don't need to write to ask for them, they come automatically. Those will help to continue the financial aid so that if you wanted to go back to school to better yourself, you can do that. And then once you get approved, you get a 10-year green card. There's no greater benefit than that. You get a 10-year green card. And then 3 years later, you're able to become a citizen. If your child is under 21, they will derive citizenship from you. So the greatest freedom is what you get. Okay, let me see what else. All right, let me focus on YouTube. I've been ignoring them. Ramez says, "Good morning, Aisha. Do you think it is safe to file for VAWA? Safe from what? Like, so you know, in what context? If you're talking about whether you're safe from your spouse, if you file for a VAWA application, your safety, you know, no lawyer can, you know, like your safety is dependent on you and your own ability to make sure that you're careful. Your lawyer is not going to be disclosing anything to your spouse. USCIS is not going to be disclosing anything to your spouse. USCIS doesn't send any mails to your spouse to your home address. You should list a safe address. You're given the option to list a safe address. So, you know, as long as you are making sure that you're safe, you're keeping yourself safe, you're not putting all your immigration papers and all of that stuff there for your spouse to find out, then you should be safe. So the safety depends on you as well, because I can tell you in our firm, if we get mail for you, like 3 mails in 3 different like in 3 weeks, I would not even assume that it's safe to send it to the address we sent it to the last time. We will never send the mail unless you specifically say this is a safe address each time. Because today that address can be safe, tomorrow it might not be. Because sometimes some people will leave their spouse and move out and move somewhere else, and an address is safe. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, attorney, my spouse didn't have anywhere to go and they begged me and then they moved back in with me. And then I never want to make an assumption that an address is safe. So we always want to make sure that your address is safe before we send it. So that's that. So Nikia says, question, I heard immigration is speeding up processing times and hired new workers. Have you seen any difference since? And what is the new thing with paying $2,500 for faster processing? Nikia, I just talked about this a few minutes ago earlier, but I guess maybe you weren't tuned in there. So we will find out. We'll find out very soon how whether this is happening. June is when we're really going to begin to see the difference as far as the premium processing and what it's done. It doesn't apply to every case. A lot of the cases have to do with employment-based case, but it definitely applies to EAD and also even I-360 petitions, which is wonderful, and 485s. So let us see what happens, in the next 2 weeks. Generally, I know once like a whisper of something happening comes out, a lot of people want to talk about it and stuff like that. But the way that I practice is that I wait for something to become factual, because I don't want to raise people's hopes if something is not going to pass. I might say this might be potentially what's going to happen, but believe that once it becomes law, I will definitely come on live here and tell you this is what you can expect. So for now, nothing is happening, but it's potentially supposed to happen. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that this happens. Okay. Eva says, I'm waiting on my green card. When I receive it, can I apply for my stepkids at the same time when I apply for my husband's adjustment of status? My husband has a pending asylum case. By the way, my stepkids are not in the US. Okay, Eva. So let me just point something out to you. You said you're waiting on your green card. I'm hoping that your green card is not based on marriage. Because if your green card is based on marriage, you can't petition for your husband for at least 5 years until you become a citizen. So let's start with that. So as long as your green card is not from marriage, you're fine. But generally, as a green card holder, you must wait 5 years, unless you can prove that you did not enter that marriage fraudulently. Basically, you raise your standard of proof from preponderance of the evidence to clear and convincing. Basically, now you really need to convince us that the initial marriage wasn't a fraudulent marriage. So it depends on how you got your stuff. Alex, I don't handle removal cases. Let me see. It says, good morning. Can one apply for prosecutorial discretion while I'm in removal proceedings at the immigration court? I don't handle removal cases. So, you should probably speak with a removal attorney that can assist you. Jessica says, what if someone files VAWA, but in reality, there was no abuse? The person fakes everything because he or she was only after a green card. If they do that, that's terrible, because, this law is truly to protect people who are really suffering. And if somebody is doing that, that's terrible. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Icy says, when you get a work authorization, does it mean they will approve your VAWA case? It depends on what kind of work authorization you get. If you get a C9, it means absolutely nothing. If you get a C31, which comes closer towards the end of your VAWA application process, yes, they will be approving your VAWA case. Let's see. Norga says, can you please repeat what you said you would apply if you're out of status? I don't remember what you're referring to, but I'm going to save the video, so you should be able to watch it once I finish. I'm keeping up with Mrs. G. I will save the live, guys. I will save it so you guys can watch it. April 12th. So Lasana says April 12th was our 1 year mark since we submitted our marriage-based case. Still no interview date. Should we be worried or try to get in touch with USCIS? No, I wouldn't be worried. You're probably really on the cusp, and I have a feeling that you probably get it now. Most people, it's taken like 12 months to 15 months to get scheduled for an interview. I'm more worried after your interview and it's been 12 months and you've not gotten your green card. But as far as an interview, they will schedule you in for an interview. They must schedule you for an interview. And if processing time has passed, then you can use congressional assistance to get scheduled for an interview, and stuff like that. Bibi Barazi says, what is your consultation fee? I charge $150. Let's see. Can you move when you file for Vala because your spouse found out your location? Would it affect your case? You can absolutely move when you file for Vala. You can absolutely move when you file for any immigration case. One thing that I've observed in my time, as an attorney working with immigrants, is that typically until immigrants get their paperwork, they're very unstable as far as where they live. So sometimes they might move because there's somewhere else that's going to give them a job, or their spouse is going, or whatever the case may be. So USCIS understands that. But the key thing is, if you move and you're working with an attorney, or you're working by yourself, it's really important to notify USCIS, because what messes up your case is when you move and you don't notify them. Because if you don't notify them, if something gets mailed to you, you're not going to get it. If you get scheduled for biometrics in Georgia, but you've moved to Arizona, you now have to worry about flying to Georgia, to do your biometrics. Same thing if they schedule you for an interview in Georgia and you live in Arizona because you never updated them. That also becomes a problem. So the moving is not the problem, but make sure that you're updating USCIS so that they know where to send your files to. Okay. Kamala says, good morning. Do you get an interview when your daughter files for you? Sometimes, but most times no. But sometimes you could get an interview. So it just really depends. There's no method or rhyme to reasoning. With COVID times and them just trying to speed up cases they're interviewing, the odds are probably in your favor that they may bypass that and just ask for your medical exam. So those typically mother-daughter are typically the only cases. Mother-daughter or mother-child under 21 are typically the only cases that I personally send medical exams with the application, because I typically expect an interview bypass in COVID times. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we have in the question box. All right, guys. I'm going to be jumping off very soon. Olamide Ade says, USCIS portal says I'm not able to change my address at this point of my education. Is that good news? I don't know, because I don't know what point you're at or what kind of case you have, because some cases you cannot change your address online. You have to do it manually by sending a mail to USCIS. So I don't know what your case type is. If my spouse doesn't like to take pictures, what's another net evidence we can rely on for our interview? There's just so much evidence other than pictures, honestly, that you can use. It will take me a super long time, but since a lot of people are asking about evidence on my live on Tuesday, make sure you tune in. I'm just going to be talking specifically about evidence to strengthen and prove that you have a bona fide marriage, because I think it'll be helpful for you guys, since you guys keep asking about that. Okay, this is the last question I will take today. So Destined Tycoon says, you said that they're the type of EAD that you will have, and that means you'll have more chances that your case will be approved. A C-31 is an approval for Vala. If you get a C-31 work permit, you've been approved. It's just that your approval comes after they send you the work permit. I really don't know why they do it that way, but if you get a C-31, it's an approved case. It just means that your approval letter is coming. A C-9 just means that your case is pending. So that's the difference. Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Um, I hope you guys have a wonderful Easter for those of you who celebrate. If you don't celebrate and you're taking the time off, enjoy. And I'll see you guys back live on Tuesdays. Tuesdays and Fridays, I come on live at 10 o'clock. I might run a little late some days, but 10 o'clock basically. So, subscribe to my channel on YouTube and hit the notification button on Instagram, Facebook, so it notifies you when I'm on live. Again, I would love for you guys to share this video on WhatsApp, share it with your friends, share it with your family, uncles, aunties, cousins, because you never know who's going to need this help. All right, guys, take care. Bye.